Well, good morning again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt from beautiful little Glen Rose, Texas, and I want to talk to you about impacted teeth. When I got out of dental school, actually before I got out, while I was in dental school, the surgeon was a good teaching surgery. He was nice to me, and he let me take out impacted teeth even in dental school and do some other surgical procedures. So it wasn't a new thing for me. So when I opened my practice in a little town of Hurst, Texas, and there was no dentist in 2 or 3 towns around me, and I did all the impactions that came across the way, and I learned how to do them quite well. And I developed a method of taking them out several years after I'd been into this. And I'm going to try to share that with you. And if you can come up with a better way to get impactions out, well, Lord knows, let me know about it, and I will tell that how to do that. So we're going to get right into this. It takes a while to do it, but let me show you how we'll come about it. Now, I'm going to show it in several different phases of it, and you just kind of put it together in your mind. There are several things that you want to do when you're doing impacted teeth. You'd like a constant force on that tooth, and that's what we've got here. We have a spring it's a closed coil spring, and this is about where this end of the spring is right here, and I tied something to it. So you want something to give you a constant force and going in the direction you want it. Now, to make the direction where we want the impacted tooth to come to, we take the arch wire, and we're into a rectangular wire here. We come over here and make a circle in that wire and go around to the other side. If you got one over there, you do the same thing. Now you've got to put a spring on that to keep the space open big enough to where you bring the tooth in. So we spin spring onto this arch wire, and when you get to where this loop is, it just comes around it and comes right onto the end. You can put more force over here than you do over here, or you make them equal, and you've got the arch wire coming right in there. I'm going to erase that, and you can kind of see it a little better. See this arch wire coming right along here, and then you drop down and come in. Now, if you've got to have something attached to the spring that will not take up the energy of this. So I looked and kind of messed around, and finally it dawned on me that waxed dental floss was one of the best things you could do to do this. And so we fixed the spring, and I'm going to show you how we fix the spring later on, and we put how the spring would come out here, and you'd have several rings, and then you'd have one of them, you just leave it open like that, and you take dental floss and come in it like that, come out over here with it, and you double that dental floss, double this part up, and poke it in here and hook it to the hook that you got on the spring right here. And that hook can be pulled right down to the place where you want that tooth to go. Now this can sound pretty complicated, but if you just do it, each part of it together and put it together, it's not that complicated. Now, we can run one end of that floss in, hook it in, and come back out over here, take the other end here, and now it would be back here, and we'll tie a knot in it, and then I'll put the spring out to a certain point here, or wherever you want it to go. So we have about 2 or 3 things here now. We are pulling with a constant deal. we're opening the space where it needs to go, and we're pulling the tooth from where it is up in the bone structure here till it comes down to that point. And when we get down there, we rotate it and finish it up. And I've never found a tooth that we couldn't get in, except one tooth one time, and I'll show you where a cuspid came in and it cut the root of the lateral and the central pretty well off, but we made it through that. But that's the only one I've ever found that we couldn't put in. Now let's go on to another picture, and this is looking at it from the other direction. Now this is the molar back here in the back, and we take this spring, tie it with a 012 wire, and put it around this part right here and tie it back there so the spring is coming all this way. Now when he first gets out here, you've got this loop around here that you've turned out, and you put the dental floss in there, double the floss, go back and hook it to your tooth, come back out, and now take one end of it and the other end and tie them together, and you pull this out to the point, and you've figured out the distance and everything, and I'll show you how we know exactly how much force we're putting on it. Now this right here is just rotating a tooth. We attach that and come in on this side and rotate that tooth. Let's get on another picture. Now if you're going up in the roof of the mouth for the tooth, we usually use a bracket, a very small bracket, and we take a wire like this right here. That is an 014 or 4,000 soft stainless steel wire, and you take a bracket, can be something like this with a little base on it down here, and you can run that wire around that base and then put the twist on it. Really, it would have been better if I put the hook and came off, and it come off over this side, and now the tooth would be more in the direction that you want to go, because it's pulling it right here. Now, and we stretch that, put that dental floss on there, and there's very little resistance. If you're getting, say, 12 ounces of force over Z over here, you lose a little bit, but this will be almost 12 ounces in this area, pulling the tooth in that direction. And it would, the hook would have been better if I'd hooked it over here and gone up here and hooked it. It would have pulled it straighter to that opening right there. So let's go now. We've got one in the palate, and here's one over on the side over here. It's just pulling it straight down into this gap, and here is the spring on the wire right here. It increases the space in there. Looks complicated, but if you just do it in one part and then the other part, you'll understand it better. And if you're really into impactions, this is old thing hat to you, I'm sure. Let me go back there and I'll erase that. And let me see. Okay, there. Now, you can use a round wire coming off of here, and I believe that's correct. I don't know, it's a round wire. And make a circle, come over here, and you can bend this such that this is pulling straight to that point, and you come out of there, and we'll hook the spring up. We tie it around back here, and the spring will be out to this point over here, and we tie the floss, run it over, run the split the wire, the floss, one end's going to here, bring this one over, hook it around that, bring it back out, and now tie these two together. As you pull the knot up, it'll slide this part of the spring up and put that much pressure on that, and we'll show you how to regulate the pressure going on. Now, I really like these little things we put in there, little buttons like that. You can bottom as close to the tip of the tooth as you possibly can get. Now, that's another thing. You need to pull from the tip of the tooth. Like you want to pull this bicuspid in like that. Get it right at the tip. If you're pulling something and they used to go in, let me clear a space here and show you. Used to, you'd have an impacted cuspid sitting in here, something like this. And you need to bring it up here. They would wrap a wire around the tooth, twist it down, and pull it in that direction. And that is a mistake. If you've ever pulled a boat out over the river and you got this boat going something like this, and you break down and you want somebody to pull you in, you don't tie a rope around the middle of your boat or tie it to the side. You tie it right up here. And then when the other guy is pulling you away from him, it'll pull you right straight behind this boat over here. So you do a tooth just like you were pulling a boat. You have to get as close to the tip as you possibly can. And then that'll put it on in like that. This was a ridiculous thing that we used to wrap heavy, soft wire around that and twist it down and pull that out that way. But that's not the way we want to do it today. Now we go back over here. So we're going to take this little button and we put a piece of, just remember it's 014, and you get it in a spool, and you just take a pretty good piece of it and double it over this thing and take it and start twisting it. And you twist that 014 soft stainless steel wire, cut it off, bend your hook in it, and you can hook up stuff to that and pull on it up to about 5 pounds before you straighten that wire out. It's that stout. And so it's soft and you can bend it anywhere you want. And so when you got a tooth that's impacted, it's down in a hole, you get it ready. You make your hook before you think about bonding it. You have it on the end of this, go back and where the tooth is showing down here, and then bond the thing onto the tooth. And you do that with do electrosurge. It keeps from bleeding in that hole. And you aspirate and you go and etch it and get some good bonding material and put it on the back of this deal, slide it down in here and bond that little button on there with that wire already in there, and now you make your loop in it and hook to it and put it towards this hole. That's something you need to learn how to do if you're going to do impacted teeth. Now that's all right. We're going to be hooking this one to something, going to this hole right here. It looks like we may have to shift this back and put it in that direction a little bit there. This one just coming over here, and there it is, the opening on that side. Now let's see here. Now the type of spring that I used and still was using this spring when I retired from this, the lumen of the opening of the spring is 036, or it's 0.036. That's 36 thousandths of an inch across this dimension right there. The size of the wire in the spring, how big around the wire is 10 thousandths. 10 thousandths. And so this wire is 10 thousandths in diameter, and the opening in the spring is 36 thousandths. And so that gives you a string stout enough and everything to bring those teeth wherever you want to in there. And I've got this, I don't sell stuff from anybody, but you can tell it's from Unitech. But there's other people that make the springs. You don't have to buy them at any particular spot. But that's a size spring that I've used for years and years. I can bring any tooth I've ever got, no tooth except the one that ate that tooth in two. Now that's we cut a piece of that spring off. Like we're going to use this now to put the long deal, have a molar tooth back here, and we're going to come up here with this spring. So I stick a gyrback plier. That's got a little point on it, goes up in here about this far, and we'll bend that down. So now you'll have this spring put over here, and then you'll have one part of it's just a round deal like this. Now you put your floss in that. The other one, we bend it out and we tie a 12 thousandths soft stainless steel wire to the other end. Now I'm going to bend this down. Now I'll move this down and that'll bend that spring out. Now here we've bent it, there's the flyer, and we've got three rings of the spring out right here, and that's where we'll put the dental floss. We hook the dental floss there. Now we're going to come down here and hook a piece of 012 soft stainless steel wire to that. Now here we bend this out, and this is 012 soft stainless steel wire, and it's hooked right into this, and you twist it down and tie it. And over here you run your dental floss through the other end of this, like that. Now this is the end we're going to double and slip back in here and hook it to our hook over there. Now I'm going to hook this up and we can stretch it out to about here. Now this is another thing that you need to do in doing this. You make sure you know just how much pressure you're putting on that tooth, and we do that with a Doctrix gauge. Now, here is one little knot we tied in that, and you take that and you wrap that around, you go over the molar tooth in the back of the mouth and pull this all the way back in here. So this spring is coming from here all the way up to where you're going to put it in, and how much you pull it is how much pressure you put on it. And here's the dental floss coming out on the other side of that spring. Now that I know there's some of you sitting out there wondering what the devil, I'll never be able to remember all that stuff. But just do it one at a time, section, everything. It took me several years to come up with this thing, and it works. And it really works. And I had a typodot on it one time I was lecturing, and that typodot just disappeared. Somebody stole that thing. And to get the idea of how we would do that. All right, here now we hook the other end. Let me go back here. I'm going to take this end, I'm carrying it over this end, over there. And here it is. Now we put this spring back in here, and now we bring it out to this point, and we can measure how much force it's going to take. If you tie this knot and just keep pulling on it, you can put it out to this point, and now we'll double this line here, come in, hook it to this, and come out here, and now I've got these two pieces of the dental floss. We tie them together and pull that up to what point we want. Like if we start here and we pull this over here, we may have 10 ounces of force in here, OZ ounces. But we may put, I've even pulled them in where I put 14 ounces of force on them. And for every ounce, you got 30 grams in here, so you can figure out exactly how much you put on there. So you want to put a constant force going in a constant direction and pull it out with a force that's pulling that tooth out, and you will lose about just a fraction of that with that waxed floss. It slides over that just really good. And so we're going to take something down and figure this pressure out. It would take a Daltrix gauge. Now this is the back of the motor now, and we put this one, of course, wouldn't be out. It'd be out up here somewhere over the mouth. This is the end of your motors. You tie it over the motor back here. Now we're going to bring this part over the motor so you get a longer distance here. This is the 012 wire that we put in there. That's 012. And we tie a knot in it, so it's going to stay there. And this spring goes over this and comes out in this direction. Cut this off and tuck it in where it doesn't scratch the person. And now you'll stretch this spring going in another direction, the mesial direction. Now, here is a Daltrix gauge. I can't show you that Daltrix gauge too easily, but maybe we can get it. And if you can look at this thing right here, this is a Daltrix gauge. You push on it over here, and you see these little marks. Each mark is an ounce, and there's 4, 8, 12, 16 ounces. It's pushing on my finger with a pound of force. If I'm pulling it to it, it does the same blooming thing. It's pulling on with a pound of force. You can put the exact amount you want on there and put it in, and it will be pretty close to that same thing the next month or next few weeks when you see this person, except if the tooth moves for 2 or 3 millimeters or so, it'll reduce the amount that is pulling on it. Right there with, this is a Daltrix gauge. I don't know whether you can see that or not in here, but anyway, I'm holding it up here where we can see it. And I hope everybody needs one of these things. If you're going to straighten teeth, you need a Daltrix gauge. All right. Now there's the Daltrix gauge, that's one end. And if I push this in, I'm pushing it. If this ring goes up to here, then I've got 4 ounces OZ in there. If I push to here, it's 8 ounces. This is 12 ounces here. In other words, 8's half of 16. And if I go all the way to here, it's 16 ounces or 1 pound of force. That's pushing this against something. The other end of it, and here, if I pull it out, you'll have those rings like this. So it'll be 4, 12, 4, 8, 12, and 16. All of the same thing. Now there, I hooked this spring. It's tied to the back of this motor, and it's on this arch bar. And we pull this out, and that's where my hole is. So I move the tooth there, and this has 4, 8, 12 ounces of force on it, being pulled on that. Now, this is slicker than you think it is, because if I pull back here with 4, let's see, it's 12, 8, 10, 14 ounces of force. That's pulling on this is 14 ounces. That's moving this whole body of tissue, bone and all, in a forward direction with 14 ounces of force. And if you don't think 14 ounces is much, get your hold, put that on your fingers and sit there and hold it for about 5 minutes. You'll be glad you turn it loose. But so that's going to pull that right to there. This little spring in here has separated the teeth to bring this thing there. This up here is the 014 twisted on, and we put it on that hook up there. And we've got a hook. If this tooth were way up in this hole up here, we put that bottom hook and we'd have this twisted wire all the way out of there, and now put a curve in it so you can hook the elastic or hook the dental floss to that curve. And that'll pull this tooth this way with a constant force on it, going in a constant direction, and the tooth will go. And if you put it on the point, the tooth doesn't water back and forth like pulling a boat and tying it in the center. That's ridiculous. You put it as close to the tip as you possibly can. All right, now let's get on and show another one. Now I realize this is a pretty long video, and if you want to learn how to take impacted teeth in, it's going to take you a little while to learn it, because you're not going to just pick it up the first day you grab it to start with. So this, stretching this closed coil spring out like that takes 14 ounces of force to do it. And 14 ounces of force is pretty tough holding on there. Now just remember, you're pulling it in this direction. That's 14 ounces of force. That is going against these teeth, the whole thing. The upper teeth will move forward. And if you've got two impactions, one on each side, you're pulling over with that kind of force, you got like 28 ounces of force pulling the maxilla in a forward direction. Now you say, well, but it's pulling the tooth down with almost that same force, and it pulls there. So it pulls this up, so these teeth would be moved up while this tooth is being moved down right there. Now you're going to have to go home and sit down and think about that, but that's the way it goes. Now if you want to come off of the same arch, coming in and you have the force, then you're going to move the upper arch in a forward direction. If you just have one side, you'll move one side of it forward. So you built a midline problem out here. Maybe it corrects as a midline problem. I don't know if this is impacted and you're opening this gap, you'll correct the midline problem. Now I'm going to show you in another deal how you can pull the lower jaw forward by pulling the impactions down or up to the gingival line. We'll show you that too. This thing may seem and may be complicated, but if you will just do each step of it, you can learn about it. And we got that other, I'm going to be showing them so many times here, you're going to be tired looking at it. But I've got a new stylus here that I can write with, and you twist this wire on this and come and just keep twisting it. You can put more force out here than you have here to there, be there to here. And you open it wider than you need it, just a little. And when you get the tooth down in there, spin it around correct, and then close the space on it. We tied this spring back here with a 012 wire that has one little knot on it. pull it over there, wrap it around that cuspid, and tie it. And that'll hold it there. And you bring this up and you put whatever force you want on there. And it'll be a constant force going in a constant direction. And those are two important things you put on there. You need to put a hook that you can put about I would say 5 pounds of force on that little spring before you straighten it out. So you're not going to be messing with that. This is much better than those little old gold chains. You send them to an old surgeon, they pin those on the way. You got to go through the opening of the spring. This, you just carry your loop up and hook it over like that. And it's much quicker and much easier to bond and work on. It doesn't cost 1/10 of what the little gold springs cost, or chain rather. All right, let's go on something else, and I'll erase that. Now here, we like the distance. We had the crown and the teeth lined up good. So we've got this one here, pulling with a certain amount of force, bringing the maxilla forward. And this tooth right here is coming down with a certain amount of force. And this is being brought forward. This comes on in here. Now, you have to depend on the patient to pull this, to put the elastic in. If you got a good guy and this thing's got this hook going up like that, he can reach up there and hook that elastic. And then you hook this spring right there and you bring that. So whatever force we're putting down here, that's going in this direction. This one over here is going in this direction. This is coming down, and this one right here is putting it down, and that pulls this tooth down really quick. In other words, arch bars come on up to meet it, and we'll bring that back and tie it with that. And when we get this tooth in place, we'll put a little bit more of this, and we carry the tooth down to this, about that far below that thing. Now let's get it back. All right, here we are. You measure, put this, so I've got 8 ounces of force, see, on this rubber band. In other words, you pulls it out to here. It has 8 ounces. Now person's got to reach up and hook this rubber band up here, and it'll pull with 8 ounces of force, and that'll be pulling this tooth down, plus this other pulling it down. So you got a lot of force going a lot of different ways, and you just sit down and think about it, and that'll put that tooth, put this tooth and bring it on in here, and then you rotate it after it gets into place. Let's get on. Now this is a clear elastic, and you can hook, say, 1/4 ounce back here, go up under that little hook, come up and hook it over this tooth right here. Then this floss is on there. So we got this one right here is putting this forward. This is coming down. This is coming down with this one. It's kind of headed back and down. And that's to bring it into a particular spot in the mouth, and you can put the tooth just where you want it there. So let's go next. So there's the upper and the lower. And we rarely use 2 of them. If you, in case you want to increase the lower arch, bring it further forward, use this method here, but you have to depend on the person to hook it up. But they'll do that. You show them how to hook it with a little floss. They'll reach in and hook that, tie it on to your force. And it'll move the lower jaw forward and bring this up some. If you don't mind that, just leave this off and put this one on, and this will bring the upper jaw forward, and it will be a prescribed amount of force as you put it where you want it, and it'll be a constant force. All right, here we have double this floss. Here's your spring down here, and the loop around here. We run the floss through there. Sorry, let me see. I have to change my, change the color of it. Okay, now, so you're pulling with a certain amount of force, pulling these teeth forward right there. Let's get there and see where I was. Now, here's the spring. It's tied to a motor back here. You run this dental floss through there, and you come up, hook it here. There's this floss. Go up, hook underneath there, comes over here, and have the two sides, one kind of twisted right there. And we'll try a knot in it. As I'll tie that knot up, it'll pull this wire right out to where you, if that's where you want to bring it to a certain amount of force, that's where you take it to. I'm running out of water here, I believe. That's not the only thing I'm running out of. As you get older, you run out of a lot of stuff. And I think as some baseball player says, you want to go to the funeral of your old friends, because when you die, they won't come to yours. Well, I want you to know, when you get up there close to 95, and I'm halfway to 96, you don't have many friends left. Most of them are dead, and that's a fact. And a lot of it is caused by smoking, but I'm not going to get onto that bandwagon today rather. Now we tie this knot, and as we tighten the knot up, it will slide. That wax floss is great. It'll slip that knot right over to here, and we'll have that much force. We'll go in there that much. Got a little fancy pin. You have to have the button on it to pull it out. Now there, we've tied that knot, and I wish I could show it to you here. You pull that up, and I put 2 loops instead of 1. Pull it up, then take it again and again, and then cut it off. Now this kind of collects stuff, and so we change this every month or 2 to 3 weeks, whatever distance time you see patients. Back in there, we change the dental floss and keep pulling this with the amount of force that we need. Now when this spring, if you get right up here, then the thing's going to butt against that. So instead of hooking it here, we just hook it on this over here and pull it off of that. You see, so you can pull this down, and now you use this button to pull that tooth will be sticking out down in here, and then we'll take it and rotate it from one side to the other to get it straight. There. And there, that's getting down there pretty close, and it comes on down. When this hook touches this wire, we just cut that spring off of there. We hook onto this, and then come right in with it, twist it, and work with it that way. So this method has everything you need in bringing these teeth into place. Now, if you get an ankylosed tooth, you're going to have to go around up in there with an elevator and kind of crack it loose, and then start pulling with a more gentle force. But if you put a lot of force on it, you will pull the tooth, extract the tooth. And I've never done that, but I've had them come forward just a little bit. All right, here we are. All right. Here is another way. If you decide you want to make this tooth go this way, then you can come off with a rubber band. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go back here and touch this. See, I'm going to have to get it back in PowerPoint somewhere or another. Anyway, you're going to have to run this up and come on back here to bring that through. You'll tie this thing off, and it'll slide that. This will bring this thing forward so much, and you can hook the rubber band. In other words, you hook the rubber band, it's kind of like this. And so the tooth is going to come down the middle of the gap right there. Let's see if I push this. It still shows the same thing. Now here we're pushing in the palate, the tooth in the palate. If this tooth, this elastic has to ride over the ridge of the tissue, you can take that loop coming around like this. When you get here, you go up and like that and bring this down. Now this would be sticking up, and you had to pull from up high so it keeps the floss from cutting into the tissue. Now there's one just coming in. Again, same thing, except we are doing both jaws there. We got an upper and lower pull on it. This is a little pin that you can get, and we use those pins a lot of times. You can get them on a card. They're real soft metal. I'm going to show why we hook those things on. This is a pin, see right here, and it shoves through a little opening and you can bend this down on the end. Now you can put the elastic under that and put it over to here. Now, I know there are people out there that have brought their impacted cuspids in, and they think they know the best way to do it. If there's anything better in your way of doing this, I would like for you to let me know, because I've been putting in impacted teeth for at least, well, actually about 60 years. I did them in dental school and started to be over 60 years. And we've never failed to get one, except that one I told you that just cut the root of the tooth off completely. It's unusual. And the cuspid just laying in up there in the cut-off root. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope you use this. This is the most efficient, really easiest way to put that force where you want it, constantly going in a constant direction, and that spring will be pulling just about the same force, except if this tooth moves, in other words, this will move over here, then it's going to be less force on the spring, but it's still going in the same direction. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you get on our channels and we get this thing spread all over the world, where we can do teeth like this anywhere we are, and you can study these. And thank you again, and I'm going to sign out.